we're live. Yep.
It is
Um,
live.
Hi, Stephen. Good to
Hi,
see you
Liza.
again.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you on a cold New York day at a time when our world feels maybe especially cold.
It does, and that's why it's great to talk to you. I want to hear your thoughts on some things, and we uh, we 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 haven't planned much, but we know we want to talk about Ukraine. And I was
Yeah,
thinking about this a lot yesterday because Trump said two things in the last 2 days. Uh, First, he said that Vladimir Zelensky is a dictator without elections. And then he doubled down and said that Zelensky started the war with Ukraine. I mean, with Russia. Zelensky started the war with Russia.
right.
And both are false. I've been backed up by the New York Times and the Guardian on that. We know it's false. But what I wrote about on my Substack yesterday was that this is typical Trump uh, behavior because what he does is he simplifies things and lies about them. Of course, we know that, but he simplifies them in such a way as they cut through the fog of news. So people who are not paying attention to the news, which people have their lives to live. They're not like you and I who are obsessed about the news, but they will hear these things and it will lodge in their brains as truth and it will
Yeah,
carry forward. And the American people will believe, oh, well, Zelensky's a bad guy. He's a
right.
dictator. He started this war. Yeah, he started this war. So it perpetuates the truth. And then, um, I mean, the ramifications of this are huge with
Yeah,
Europe. Uh, so I want to hear your thoughts on it.
yeah. Well, look, I mean, Zelensky's not a dictator. He doesn't have 4% approval.
Mhm.
He didn't start the war. Let's start there. And he, by the way, shouldn't give up 50% of their rare earth metals and minerals as essentially as a kind of blackmail from Trump to be able to get support from the United States. I mean, Trump is sort of, using this moment to deepen his alliance with Putin, abandoning Ukraine, abandoning our European democratic
Right.
allies.
Hmm.
And, that's the thing about this. He has, Donald Trump has a gift at saying outrageous things that infuriate us,
Hmm.
but it's not about our feelings. And in this particular moment, and this one upsets me a lot because it specifically undermines the democratic alliance that's been built since World War II, that he is now dismantling, and
Hmm.
he's destroying the bulwark that's been built over 80 years since the end of World War II, that has been able to withstand Soviet and now Russian aggression.
Right.
And it's not just about our position in the world. It's about what the impact is for the Europeans. And he builds this alliance with Putin, which is really what this is about, sacrificing this after as many as 100,000 Ukrainians have lost their lives, as many as 380,000 Ukrainians that have been injured by multiple estimates. And they've done this to defeat the Russian invaders. They've done this to secure their sovereignty, to sustain their democracy,
Hmm.
things that are consistent with American values and principles. And
Right.
now we're turning our backs on all of that.
And it's for money. There's a actually in the Times front page today. There's an article that says um, uh, Kremlin message to Trump: "There's money to be made in Russia." It's all about money. It's all
Yeah,
about control, and it's frightening. And it reminds me of my what I know of the start of the early days in World War II. Um, that if Russia takes over Ukraine, then what? You know
well, that's
what's
the problem, right? I mean, it's in American interest. It's in the Europeans' interest, who, by the way, have given, supported with more money than the United States has given. Trump lied about that too, how much support the United States has given,
Mhm.
and obviously now they have to take a lead in a way that before they had a real ally with the United States, but that's
Mhm.
over. And the problem is, well, there's so many problems. The problem is that it's not only that it undermines their relationship with America and Trump. We have this whole collection of miscreants, criminals and apologists for Putin and for Assad and so forth, with the
Mhm.
Tulsi Gabbard, and now specifically in the last week, you had Pete Hegseth, who was
Mhm.
calling returning to the original borders as unrealistic and essentially ruling out NATO membership.
Mhm.
And the last couple of days, the photograph of Marco Rubio,
Oh
the
god.
craven Secretary of State in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, sitting at the table across from Sergei Lavrov, the defense minister of Russia, and then at the end of the table, the foreign minister from Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
Zelensky, and no Ukrainian was there. There was not a single European who was
Right.
there. I
Peace
mean,
talks? So
yeah,
to speak, peace talks?
right, negotiating table. And it's
Mhm.
really, to me, it was a picture of appalling betrayal of American principles and values,
Right.
betrayal of an ally, and a disgusting collaboration with an adversary that has wanted to do harm to America and our society for
Mhm.
well, as long as they've been around.
Right.
So
Somebody in the comments just said that Pritzker took it on, and I did see that. The governor
yeah,
of Illinois, gave a very powerful speech last
yeah,
night. I don't know when it was. It was his State of the State,
right.
address, but at the end, he he, you guys have to watch it. Just go
Yeah.
to
Well,
his
I have the
Instagram.
words if you like.
Yes,
I actually,
please.
because I made a specific point of capturing just the last few sentences, which I thought were
Mhm,
quite powerful. Tyranny requires your fear and your silence and your compliance. Democracy requires your courage. So gather your justice and humanity, Illinois, and do
mhm,
not let the tragic spirit of despair overcome us when our country needs us the most.
mhm, mhm. That's what we
He
gotta
wasn't
do.
just talking about Ukraine and what's happening with Russia. Obviously, he's speaking more broadly,
Yeah,
but that wouldn't be more fundamental.
right. And then on top of it, JD Vance was in Germany
Yeah,
schooling the Europeans on free speech. Like
right.
let's Germany, you really should give the right wing party that has been known to that's been discounted by the German government. You know, let's give them a chance. You got to hear
Yeah,
them. You got to have free speech. Everybody needs to have a voice at the table. Of course, I believe in free speech, but not when it's an extremist right wing you know party like that. And
right.
who's JD Vance to go over there and say that to them?
And the arrogance, the hypocrisy of J.D. Vance, the handmaiden of Donald Trump, talking about the commitment to free speech and his take on what democracy is.
Mhm,
Yeah, I
mhm.
mean, it's an insult. It was taken as an insult by pretty much
Yes, it
every
was. Oh, and
European.
they said so too. They really, clapped back at him big
And the
time.
Germans in particular, I mean, they have since World War II and the horrors perpetrated by their own, Nazi
Right.
Nazi rule, Nazi government, Nazi people.
Mhm,
They've obviously evolved over this whole, last 80 years,
mhm,
and evolved a policy to respond to this kind of, neo-Nazi
mhm,
displays and neo-Nazi
mhm, mhm,
thinking. And
mhm,
who is J.D. Vance to come over there and tell them, that they should essentially be embracing the neo-Nazi party?
mhm. Pritzker makes a good point too about, you know, nobody wants to nobody wants to call somebody a Nazi, but I think the comparisons of what happened in Germany before the war and what's happening in our country can't be ignored. In that
Yeah,
the German people were worried about inflation. They were worried about the price of eggs. They felt powerless. They felt downtrodden. And Hitler came along and said, "I'm going to make you feel much better. I'm going to make you guys great again." He didn't use those words, I assume, but that was the thing. And the same thing's happening here. And somebody asked in the comments, I saw it fly by.
Hmm.
What can an individual do? And I I don't know for sure, but she said, I think it was a she, other than be informed. Well, that's the big one. Be informed. Um, don't be alone. These are things I've heard from other people. Don't be alone. Find your community. Talk about it. Get angry about it.
Yeah.
Write your
Speak
call.
out.
Write and your senators and your representatives, and then go to protests if you can find them. Which I think they're more and more are happening. What else, Stephen, can people do?
Well, I mean, look, I think that's a good basic list. I mean, I do think the need to speak out and in whatever social media platforms or with whatever circle of friends. I mean, it's been said the smallest act matters.
Hmm.
Every act matters, and I think it's direct in the sense of I know somebody who lost their job because of this kind of Musk stupidity to just start cutting people who are in important positions at the FAA or FDA or other
Hmm.
places where we need security and safety.
Hmm.
They're cutting away in those places. So if you see a problem, state the problem. I think that couldn't be more important. I think it's
Hmm.
important to be protecting vulnerable people. I mean, I've started to pay more attention to the threat that immigrants and the reality that
Yeah.
immigrants are facing
Yeah.
for deportation, and to
Hmm.
try to spotlight that as much as I
Hmm.
can,
Hmm.
just to sort of raise people's awareness and look in communities in Chicago, New York, and so forth.
Hmm.
Especially, I mean, they're getting information about how to push back against the so-called border czar and the role that ICE has been playing. But I think any time of sort of speaking out at a time when so many vulnerable populations are in danger. So
Hmm.
I think that's
Hmm.
part of the thing that we can do.
Yeah. And since you're here and you're on social media, find the representatives who are doing stuff.
Yeah,
Elizabeth, we said this last time we zoomed or did this live. Elizabeth Warren, um, Chris Murphy from
Chris Murphy,
Connecticut, um, Bernie Sanders,
Jamie,
AOC.
and
Find them, follow them, and support them if you can by sharing their material or donating if you can.
yeah,
People like that.
JB Pritzker. I mean, I have to
Pritzker.
say,
Mhm.
this morning, Mark Jacob, who was a former editor of the Chicago Tribune,
Raskin. Sorry, Raskin. Somebody said Raskin. Yes.
Jamie
Sorry. Go ahead.
Raskin. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're sort of talking about this idea of trying to put in place essentially a daily briefing, a regular daily accounting of what's going on, but also, not only sort of saying what's happening, an alternate point of view from the flood of lies and the desecration and degradations that are happening.
Yeah.
Right now there's not a consistent, and I don't mean it has to be a single voice, although somebody like Pete Buttigieg would be great. I think there needs to be a collection of people, and I don't think it's just about like, here's the Democratic Party position. This is what factual reality looks like. These are what our values and principles are in a democracy. And, we all see what's going on every day. But I think
Hmm.
it's incumbent on us to continue to voice when it's being violated, but also to just remind each other, kindness matters, compassion matters,
Hmm.
decency matters,
Hmm.
equality and justice and diversity and inclusion. I mean, all of these things are, values and principles that are fundamentally American.
Right. That's
All the
that
sort of
is that.
effort to undermine this
Yeah. As
would
long
have
as
to
you and
push
I,
back.
I'm sorry.
Please.
As long as you and I have been alive, I don't know how old you are, but I've been alive a while. That has been even with Republican leadership, that has been who we are. We
Right.
care about other people and we care about not just Americans, we care about the world. We care about Europeans, we care about Russians. We don't care about their government, but we want to help others. And I that's what's very hurtful about this is um I have I've often felt very proud to be an American for
Yeah.
that reason. Um, yeah. So so I guess that we need to band together. We need to talk to each other and be compassionate like you said, and listen and spread the word. Uh, Educate yourselves. If you don't know where to look, there's Substack people who have resources. The Contrarian is a good place to go. Heather Cox Richardson. I mean, I could name a lot of people who not only give you information, but they also, if you look at their sources, they will point you just by looking at where they get their information to where there is hard work being done on journalists. Um,
Yeah.
I know Heather Cox Richardson, if you don't even have time to read her pieces, they're amazing. You can go to the bottom of her newsletter and see where she got her information. And you can say, oh, I've never really looked at Midas Touch before. I've never seen
Mm.
Axios. What is that? So, find sources there and find out what these people are doing and working hard to bring the truth out.
Yeah. I mean, look, I want to say that, America, part of its strength is that it has been a beacon of democracy. And so what's happening here, it affects us. But
Hmm.
the impact, the ripple effects of that are all over the world. And, that's part of this tragedy. But, I think it's important. If you, I think a lot about Nazi Germany. I do, and what happened then, and it's very easy to see all of that in a monolithic way. That it was all Germans, was plenty of Germans, but it wasn't all Germans. There were people who did not go along with this, even if they didn't know sort of what to do. And I'd like to think that 50 years from now, when people look back at this time, when we're through this dark chapter, that they'll be able to say, there were plenty of us that
Yeah.
were not part of it. There was a strong and clear opposition that
Right.
continued to express basic human and basic American values and principles.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Well,
that
we,
we're not monolithic. And and if I can say, I mean, I'm planning to write something for tomorrow at America, which is actually focused on the people in the countries outside of America who are now in some ways part of our opposition, because they're expressing their opposition to what Trump is doing. And
yes.
I honor them, and I'm encouraged by the
Yeah.
fact that you've got Canadians, and you've got Germans, and you've got Mexicans, the president and prime ministers and
Hmm.
important people who are pushing back in meaningful
Hmm.
ways
Hmm.
against
Hmm.
Trump and this regime.
I think many people in other countries are compassionate for us, and I'm very grateful to
Yeah,
that. And they feel they under, they understand. My one of my first instincts is to be embarrassed by what's going on here, but I think, and I should be, but we should be. But also, I think they get it. They understand what happened, and they understand why it happened, and they're willing to help us. And that I'm look forward to your piece. That's great. I look forward to hearing what you have to say about that.
thanks,
Um,
thanks. So look, and I will say that this is one moment, and I'm talking again about sort of Ukraine and Russia, that I have seen a few Republican senators who said, like, "Oh, come on, you know, uh, Russia invaded Ukraine. Putin
right.
is a murderous dictator." I mean, I think there have been some voices that have appeared in the Republican Party in this particular moment. Now, what the impact of them will be, I can't say.
Right.
It's clear that Trump has made a decision to roll over and do whatever it is to emulate in whatever way he can
Right.
Vladimir Putin. But
Right.
it's at least good to hear some signs of the Republican Party that have still held on to some last semblance of reality.
Hmm. Let's hope there'll be more.
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
what we need.
that's what we need. Definitely need that. So
So here
I
we are.
guess we did we
I think we'll need to do this again, because
did we
it's
vent? Yeah.
we're
Sorry.
in a very accelerated reality right now, and
Oh,
I don't know that it's going to calm down anytime soon. But
yeah. I mean, the whole other thing about New York City. I don't want to get into it today, but I was so worked up yesterday when I wrote my piece
mm,
about what they're trying to do to our government. And it's frightening. I don't like to say that,
yeah,
and I don't
well,
take it lightly, but it's
maybe the governor will decide that Eric Adams just doesn't belong in office anymore. But I'm
yeah.
not optimistic.
It's a little, it's a very political decision for her,
Yeah,
so we'll have to see what she does.
yeah. Well, this is great. I'm glad that we
Yeah.
did this
Yep.
again.
Mhm.
I think we're making an argument of why we need to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll try to do it as often as we can, guys. Thank you for being here. We have a
Yeah, thanks to everyone to be here. Really
yeah,
appreciate it.
really. Follow Steve on his Substack and follow me. I mean, you guys are already following us, right? So
I hope you are, and tell your friends. This is. I mean, it sounds self-serving, but I also want to say this is about community building, and
yeah,
right now that's what we need more than anything.
exactly,
To know
exactly.
that you're not alone, and there are others that are doing in their own way
Right,
something about it, and I think that's what we
right.
all.
Let's try to use social media for good this time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Stephen.
time.
See you later. Bye.